helped make this game, one of the secrets to it, is just watching a lot of old movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of this, it's like some of them are references, but a lot of them are like plot elements, ideas of relationships between people. Is the subtle stuff that came out of watching old black and white movies, because they just did stuff so differently then. And I know there were formula movies back then, but they're not the current formulas, and they're not as pat as the movies you'd watch today. They're surprising. Like old film noir movies have relationships between people that feel really different than modern relationships. Some of them are messed up and based on old social things, and some of them are just like cooler. It's weird.
Well, there's a certain stoicism that you don't,
and a certain
kind of reserve maybe you don't see in characters.
And a little bit of an honesty in characters. Like nowadays, like you don't think the way people talk now. There's different layers of meaning to everything and different subtexts.
Say everything's cool, which means which means F you, which means that no, it's more like things.
So even though they're old, they're very refreshing, is what I'm saying. Like Casablanca has a lot of just honest people talking honestly to each other in a way that's different than a modern movie.
But hearing all these names too, I just feel like a lot of times I catch myself saying I went there instead of I worked there, because it was really like it was an extension of college, and it was just everyone, we were all friendly, we all hung out together. So whether we were hanging out at work or at someone's house, it was just all a blur,
That's funny. I went to LucasArts.
Yeah, Lucas High.
I didn't put in too many late nights, but there was one where I was in the office at 2 in the morning just making notes on the script, and all of a sudden Chuck Jordan walks by my office and says, "Hi," and there was a way about him that 10 minutes later I got up from my desk and went over to his office and went in and said, "Did you just get in?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I got in at 2 in the morning." He's like, "Yeah." And I guess that he had put in so many late nights that his whole time clock had shifted, and so he said to Tim, he's like, "Hey, is it okay if I just come in at 2 in the morning?" And Tim was like, "Sure."
There was a certain amount of improvisation at the more towards the end of the game you got, the more the musicians improvise, and so sort of like
this
everything's
sounds like the Meadow kind of, isn't it?
It is. It's a little bit like in fact I think it's a remix of some of the tracks I used in the Meadow, and they're sort of riffing on the Hector theme.
Wait, where's the Hector theme in this?
The da-da-da is part of...
Dun, da, 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 da. Oh my god. You're ripping this whole game wide open with this Hector.
It's kind of this, it's what I'd do is hum the Hector theme to them before they would start jamming.
I really didn't like early 3D,
like
90s 3D, because I always thought it looked like cardboard boxes that were taped together and that someone had dragged nylons over, and that implies a lot more smooth skinning than actually existed. It was really like, and then everything was painted on the outside, even things that should be modeled as an interior space, like ribs on a skeleton or something. Everything was painted on the outside,
right?
And it looked ridiculous.
So it looked like everybody was wearing a Halloween costume anyway. Yeah,
and then I saw those papier-mâché skeletons where they painted the ribs on the outside, and I was like, this is perfect. This kind of folk art would actually look really good in 3D. There was a lot of pressure to get into 3D back then because it was seen as the future. Obviously it was, because a lot of everything turned into 3D, but 2D is still a big money-making thing in games too.
Yeah, we used the sarangi, the Indian cello, to sort of make a reference to the hippies, I guess you'd say.
To who was the guy with the Beatles?
George Harrison was
the
guru, the Maharishi. Yeah. And also Ravi Shankar was sort of a friend of theirs, musical friend of theirs.
There's a character who shows up later on called a florist, who is played by a great actor called Keith Sarabaika, who I've worked with a lot over the years, and Keith, oftentimes when he auditions the characters, the way he does his auditions, they're not usually safe choices that he makes. And the first time I came across him was he was auditioning for Boston Low, and Boston Lowe's a space commander, and Keith was doing something very deep and dark and strange, and because his last name is Zarabaika, it just sort of stuck in my head, and I used to always look forward to whatever audition Keith was going to throw our way, and they were always bizarre and never appropriate. And then when he auditioned for the florist, he was insane because he, in the real world, is a florist and deals with flowers, which are beautiful things, but in the Grim Fandango world, it's death. He's gone crazy, and he's deranged, and Keith just nailed the part and was just brilliant. And it was at that moment that I realized, oh, he's actually a normal dude, and he can do all sorts of other things, but it's just his audition choices are different and unusual.
So yeah, one of the things that I think people don't realize is it's not just pre-rendered art, but there's pre-rendered Z buffers.
That's right.
Through the whole thing. And we thought that the pre-rendered Z buffers were just do all the work for us, and it turned out that if you look through the game data, the pre-rendered Z buffers, there's a lot of hand-painted pre-rendered Z buffers. We made a Z buffer editing tool, which was funky because it's 16-bit data, and you can't edit 16-bit data in an 8-bit monitor. So you'll see.
It was grayscale. It looked like a ghost scene. It's like you look into like a foggy version of the world.
Yeah. So we did like a quantized 8-bit version of it, and you could paint into it, and people would just use like big boxes and find places there where he was clipping, or we didn't want him to clip. A lot of it was he was slightly behind something and he shouldn't have been, so you would like go into the edge of the sofa or something, and you just black it out,
yeah,
so that he would pop in front of it.
Yep.
I do remember during Full Throttle you saying, what we've never made here is just a real like swing era, like crime, film noir story. And it always kind of stuck with me because I was like, we never have done one of those. We should do one, because I don't know what started this. A lot of us at the company were starting to get into film noir. I don't know if it was because there was a film festival at the Lark Theater where they showed every single great noir film, and we went to that, or if it was just we were at that age where you started reading Raymond Chandler. We talked about Raymond Chandler a lot in the office too.
Yeah.
You were like, she was so cold, a lump of spumoni wouldn't melt on her shoulder.
Slice of spumoni wouldn't have melted on her shoulder.
It stuck with me, and I was like, man, I got to read more Raymond Chandler. And so that started me on that.
He's awesome. And during, it was either Day of the Tentacle or Full Throttle, I wrote a little gangster theme just because I thought it would be cool. It just popped into my head, and I wanted to put the melody down. And that might have prompted that comment about it'd be cool if we did a noir thing someday.
How did I put that in there? I didn't know that happened. Manny actually got to do some salesmanship. Manny actually got to be a travel agent at one point in the game. I've totally forgotten that. Genius. Whoever made this is a genius. That's what this commentary is all about, just me watching things and being like, dang. Good job.
Yeah, nice going.
All we had to do was extract the text lines and just do what they'd always done for all the Scum games. But I had a brother who's a screenwriter in Hollywood, and he had all these special tools to format his scripts, as a screenplay. And I was like, it would be really cool if I gave Dara something he could bring into those guys who are really like familiar with screenplays. He could bring them something that looked like a screenplay. So when I wrote the dialogue extraction, I made it actually format it like a script and actually do the characters going back and forth. And I gave Tim a way that he could indicate in comments in the code. If you format the comments a certain way, like, she pouts or huffily or some other kind of cue, I would extract that and put it along with it. So just like in a normal screenplay, you'd have like, here's my line, and it's like, haughty or whatever. You'd have some cue to the actor about how it's supposed to be read. And I even put in like scene markers, like this is in the High Roller Casino, or this is exterior, docks. So they had a context for where it was in the game. And through the magic of HTML, when the web was new, I was able to just spit out HTML. So that's what I did. I wrote something that made a screenplay looking thing in HTML, and then they were able to print out and take it down there.
Oh, I think I thought of the scary thing that ends in a greenhouse. It's Frosty the Snowman. Remember? Frosty the Snowman, they travel with the snowman, and then she needs to stay warm, so he brings her in. She's going to freeze to death, so he brings her into a greenhouse, but then the bad magician locks him inside the greenhouse,
so it's
and
like
so
a
he
version
melts,
of Frozen.
and I almost cry every time.
Oh.
And then Santa comes and reminds you that it's magic snow, Christmas snow that he's made out of. Okay. That's
Oh
enough
my
about
goodness,
Frosty the
I
Snowman.
missed out on that.
So this is obviously a reference to Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah. That's a famous noir for sure.
Modern noir.
Yeah.
Its themes are subtle.
Well, and I think it's neat too that we've just, with Tim's storytelling, we come to see flowers as a bad thing, and to see an actual, meadow full of flowers. It makes something that would be pretty ominous.
It's grotesque. Yeah, it's
a mass grave. That's crazy. That's a lot of flowers. That's a
Yeah.
lot of polygons right
So
there.
yeah, those are individual flowers in the foreground, and then in the background that they were, pardon me, textures.
And Paul didn't copy and paste any of them. He built each one.
I grew them digitally. I put water on
He
my...
built them really small, and then I had to animate and scale each one of them up to the proper size.